So I think we can slowly start. People are still gathering, but nevertheless, hi once again. Good morning, everybody joining from either Estonia, Latvia, or Lithuania. Really glad to have you all here. Welcome to Esgrid's actually first ever webinar. We have three pretty interesting topics today in the agenda. I'll go through them in just a second. A few practicalities first. We will be recording this session, so hopefully that's okay with all of you. We have planned for 1.5 hours. We will not take advantage of your time, so we will stick to the time. We really would like you to interact with us, so it's not going to be a monologue, but rather a dialogue. So please do, either by unmuting yourselves or writing in the chat. We will be monitoring the chat as well, so hopefully this will be a good discussion as well, not only a presentation by us. And maybe a few words to introduce myself. So my name is Katrin. I'm one of the co-founders of Esgrid. Esgrid is a 1-year-old startup. We do value chain assessments and analysis in terms of ESG, and our sort of goal is to manage ESG impact in the value chains that we all know are super important when it comes to the overall ESG impact of a company or of an organization. And our mission and why we're doing this today and will be doing also in the future is we would really like to see ESG to become a normal part of Baltic business environment, normal part of daily processes, decision-making, investments, and so forth. And that was also one of the reasons why we recently ran a survey among sustainability experts and leads and managers in the Baltics. We really wanted to have a sort of a first kind of mapping of that role and governance in these organizations, just to take it from there, to see how we are doing today. It's clearly a new area, clearly a pretty new role as well. And as we do the mapping, as we do those discussions, we also hope that ESG governance in our organizations will become stronger, more clear, more valued in some cases. So that's the reason behind this survey. And we were super happy actually to have so many people responding to us, over 100 answers from all Baltic countries. And today is the day when we are happy to introduce the results and talk about other stuff as well. But as for the agenda, as you can see from the slide as well, I will be kicking off with the survey results, going through the results. Really happy to hear your reflections as well and so forth. After that, we will have Dr. Marek Rei, Associate Professor at Imperial College London, talking to us about AI, what makes it tick, what are the trends and how they also relate to sustainability. We are really lucky to have Marek as our advisor at Esgrid as well, and joining us today then. And then we have Rainer, our CPO at Esgrid, talking about practical use cases that can actually simplify your lives on a daily basis, help you to perform certain tasks, enhance certain tasks, and so on and so forth. So hopefully it will be 1.5 really interesting hours for you. And yeah, let's kick it off. Any questions, anything I should know before I go full speed into the survey results? If not, then without further ado, let me talk about the survey. We did the survey among Baltic sustainability leads, experts, specialists, managers, and so forth in late August, early September. And as I said, we consider it was the first of its kind mapping, according to our knowledge. So nobody has mapped the role and the governance of ESG in our region's organizations that way before. And we do consider it important in order for this position and for the governance overall to evolve and develop in future. We were really happy to see those 113 answers from all Baltic countries. We think it's a pretty good response rate for the first time. And also happy that we saw a balanced representation across countries. We did not ask people to identify themselves as Latvians, Lithuanians, or Estonians, because we know there's not like thousands of people in this role yet in the Baltics. So it wouldn't be too representative to talk about, let's say, 20 or 30 Estonian persons versus 20 or 30 specialists from Latvia or Lithuania. However, we did ask, so we considered Baltic as the one region here. However, we did ask about, where does your organization operate? Is it Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, all three, or outside the Baltics? And we also saw that that was pretty balanced, as you can see from the slide here. If you can see, it's pretty small, but basically we had about 57% of companies represented in Estonia, about 42 represented in Latvia, about 39% in Lithuania, and also 30+% represented outside of the Baltics, so more international even. And yeah, without further ado, what did we see as the results? We did ask about the length of experience working in sustainability and ESG. And we can see a bit also something that we could predict. It's a relatively new role, right? We can see that people who have been in the role up to 1 year and up to 3 years constitute about 60% of the respondents even. So, so a new role, a role in shaping, that's for sure. We also asked, do you work in-house or externally? And so most of people working rather in-house. There are also, of course, external consultants to different companies. When it comes to the other section here, that was a few people who are working as interim or for academia, sort of different types of roles that didn't exactly go under either in-house or external consultant. We also did ask, and that's interesting, also something that we could predict a bit, talking to sustainability people on a daily basis here in our Esgrid roles, but still quite interesting. So we can see that 40% of people working or responsible for ESG and sustainability today have dual roles, actually. And that's quite a responsibility, right? So 60% are focused on ESG only, but 40% working also with either HR, marketing and communications, legal, finance, or something else. Then again, when we asked, do you lead a team of people? Most of the people here, you can see 66.4% said no. So they might be part of the team, but they are not leading the team. So if they're responsible for different areas and also have to kind of work with those areas hands-on on a daily basis, once again, we can see that this role is not an easy role, right? If you even cannot coordinate or sort of redistribute your, in many cases, you cannot redistribute your tasks. You just have to perform them yourself. So that's the current picture. We also ask about, where do you come from in terms of previous practical experiences? What have you done before, either in-house or externally or whatever? We see that people have, 40% or so have worked with sustainability before as well, in one or other way. Then the second position in this ranking, so to say, is marketing and communication. A bit of a usual suspect. Many people come from that area and transform into sustainability. We also saw different other fields represented, a lot actually from environmental affairs. We know that in ESG, E seems to be rather dominant, but not only, it's also people from HR, so S is important, and so on and so forth. So in a nutshell, you could say that people fulfilling sustainability lead role today, they come from a very different background. They come from very different backgrounds. They come with very different experiences, and I personally think that's a very good thing, actually, to bring in experience even from innovations, R&D, etc., etc. In the summary slides, I've kind of tried to make my own conclusions, and we'll be also happy to hear your reflections, of course. But yes, very many different backgrounds represented in this role today. Who do you report to? in terms of governance, super important, as you all know. We can see, and that is a good thing in terms of governance for sure, that about 60% of respondents actually report to some sort of a board member. 44 out of those are reporting to CEO directly. Well, another fraction of the 60% reporting to another board member. So pretty high up in the organization, which is I said, good indicator in terms of strong ESG governance. However, when we ask, are you yourself a member of the management team of the company, you can see that most people answered no. So people themselves are not included in the highest decision-making body or executive decision-making body of the company. We also did ask about the main tasks people perform in this role. Currently, when I talk to a lot of sustainability managers across the region, I can clearly see that there are many tasks, and those tasks can range from anything super strategic to anything super tactical and hands-on. Mostly, of course, and you can see also from the results here, people are very much focused on reporting, data gathering, and all related activities to reporting. Second comes sustainability-related strategies and policies, drafting those, maintaining those, living those, trying to change company culture for those to become alive, and so on and so forth. Compliance is important, of course, and for Esgrid, really interesting to see that pretty high up in top 5, we also have value chains. We have value chains monitoring, risk management, and so forth. And really interesting also to hear many people say that they are working very hands-on with internal and external awareness, and as I said, change of culture, education of people around them to understand what ESG is, why it's important, why it needs to be integral part of business, not another silo, sort of in parallel to business, and so on and so forth. Change and project management are also well represented. So really a multitude of tasks people need to fulfill. And then we come to the challenges. There are certainly many. I actually had to use 2 slides to show you the main challenges that people pointed out. The first one in the ranking is data collection and analysis. Obviously, we know, and I think many in these calls are working hands-on with ESG and sustainability, are in the role of sustainability manager one or other way. We know that obtaining high-quality data is important, be it from inside the organization or from your partners, from your suppliers, and so forth. So this comes out as the first barrier, as the first challenge from people responding to this survey. Supply chain sustainability came out as the second challenge, really an important area to improve. And employee engagement, employee awareness, education came out as third. So I think those are really, really important areas to obviously to continue to work with, and also, think how those things can be made more efficient, more simple, more natural, again, more part of the business. So the challenges could overcome, people could overcome the challenges they mentioned. But as said, many challenges here. So second slide as well, anything from changing organizational culture to limited budgets to also in some cases limited executive support, which obviously needs to change, and so on, so forth. I won't go into all percentages and so on. I know it's a webinar, it's a video thing. You will get sleepy. It's still the morning, but we will share the slides obviously with you. And if you have any further questions, more detailed questions, happy to answer and happy to discuss. But in a summary, what I concluded myself, again, it's a role in shaping. That could be the headline for the whole survey. And we seriously and clearly want to continue with that survey also in the coming years, and it will be super interesting to see how the role will evolve now that CSRD will come into, well, is already in effect, but first reportings will have to be done, and so on and so forth. But as I said, it's a relatively young role, so obviously it still takes its shape, it still takes its form, scope, scale, and everything around it. We can see that many people have not been there for too long, only up until 3 years. Of course, a few have been much longer than that as well. We can see that 40% is in dual roles, as already discussed. It can be quite a responsibility to take care of 2 large areas in the organization. We can also see that quite many, 44%, report to CEO directly, which is a good thing. However, only 11%, 11.5% are part of the management boards of the companies. So this, I think, is one of the things that we need to change. We can see that our sustainability heroes come from very different experience when it comes to previous functions, previous job roles, anything from marketing, communications, finance, HR, environmental affairs. But also, as I said, there were people from innovations, R&D, risk management, civil engineering, and so forth. Education-wise, so many people mentioned masters. So that's a good thing. We also actually, in this pool, we have 4 PhDs and 2 more PhD candidates. But as for the fields of education, most represented was actually business administration and economics and environmental affairs, anything around it, environmental sciences, engineering, and so forth. But again, the same thing, it's a relatively new area as well in terms of education. So people come from all sorts of areas of life and education. Tasks vary, as you just saw. A lot of people, 8% obviously work with reporting, also ESG strategy and policies compilation, and regulatory compliance being the top 3 then. But as we saw, over 50% also have to take care of the value chains and partnerships, which is important then, and that is where we in Esgrid try to help very much. So many mentioned internal and external awareness as part of the tasks and also as part of the challenges. I think there's definitely something that we can all work with and help each other to increase that awareness. So it will be easier to run the area of ESG in future. We also went through the top challenges from data collection to supply chain sustainability and employee engagement. And yes, you could see the list of challenges is clearly pretty long, so also something to consider how we could overcome at least some of those. And also not nice to see that there are people, not too many fortunately, but still people who feel that they really have a limited executive support. And ESG being something that stretches really from, beginning to the end of one's business, this is a must, I think, to succeed. So this needs to change for sure. And last but not least, we can see that about 30% or so feel that they are really appreciated in the role. However, much more feel that they are somewhat appreciated, or maybe not enough appreciated. So the average rating wasn't too bad. It was 3.9 out of 5, but still also something to work with to appreciate and value the role of the people who are helping to make Baltic businesses more sustainable is certainly something important that needs to be done. But that's actually the results in a nutshell. We have something like 5 minutes to take any questions, any comments from you. If you want to post them in chat, please do. If you want to, give your voice out, please do as well. Happy to answer, happy to discuss. Thank you. Silence. I hope I'm not muted. So.
If I may, Katrina.
Yes, please.
Marika. I think it's a great initiative that you did it, and I think that your next initiative will address this last comment about how people feel appreciated. So yes. I know that you are trying to kind of from outside to bring these people up and provide support. will you be kind of like making some kind of like another external kind of summary of it that you will publish based on that survey?
Yes, that's the plan for sure.
Mm-hmm.
We'll share with media and in our own channels as well.
Mm-hmm. I guess sometimes I think maybe from very much my angle, and maybe I will write you a few comments. I was thinking that I think that the discussion, what I hear is that the companies cannot afford, sustainability managers. And when I was listening, I was thinking that I don't know, like the ones that responded, are they really like a large company managers, or they are kind of like which companies they work for? Maybe like that would be interesting also to see, like if they, like the ones who respond really work for large, or maybe there are also like smaller companies. So just to kind of have this discussion that it's not impossible that small companies can, maybe those are the ones who have those dual responsibilities, but still that in every company there can be kind of this the ESG superhero basically. That was my thought when I was listening. Thank you.
Thank you for the comments. And as for the size of the organizations, it's mostly bigger organizations, medium or bigger organizations. What we can see today, we didn't ask specifically for the size of an organization, but kind of knowing a bit who answered, I can say that in general. What we see today is that smaller companies do not have any ESG responsible at all yet. So that's yet to evolve. And of course, those roles will differ if it's a smaller organization or a bigger organization. Currently, the sort of general conclusion is that it's mostly medium-sized and bigger companies that have those people, and where the governance also then, to my thinking, needs to further improve. So, any other questions? And yes, as for the awareness, actually, we are really happy to partner with Impact Day conference in Tallinn, taking place in October, and our already existing partner, Cobalt Legal, a law firm in the Baltics, to give out the Best Sustainability Manager Award at Impact Day already in a few weeks. So the nominations are still open. So if you already haven't nominated yourselves or a talented colleague, please do. But if no further questions right now, then let's take the next presentation.
But there was one.
Yes, give me a second.
There is a question from the chat. Hi, I'm Mike from Esgrid as well. Just a quick moderation here. So a question from the chat is, are there any clear industry trends when it comes to the presence of sustainability officers? Are there specific sectors leading the way in appointing sustainability managers, or is their distribution fairly broad across industries?
From my experience, I would say that it's fairly broad. So there are no specific sectors so much as there are maybe, for instance, an example, companies with Nordic background would be more experienced in this area, also in terms of ESG governance and appointing people responsible for the topic, and so on and so forth. Larger companies, more international companies, but when it comes to the Baltic ones, there are people working with sustainability in different sectors. We cannot see a clear distinction there. Okay, but now I'll give the floor over to Marek. Please tell us about large language models, and what are the trends and what makes AI tick.
Okay. Hi. Thank you. Just checking if you can hear me.
All good.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Mark, and yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about what large language models are and how do they work. And my goal is to kind of give you a bit of insight into these models and how they behave internally, beyond what you see just when you're using them. And I'll also discuss a couple of use cases where these models can be very useful. And then Rainer will continue and discuss some more specific applications and how they can be even more useful for the area of sustainability. First, a quick introduction of me. Who am I and why am I talking about AI here? I am an associate professor at Imperial College London, and I lead a research group working on machine learning and language modeling. I'm also a visiting researcher at the University of Cambridge, and I am an industry advisor, including an advisor for Esgrid. And previously, I received a PhD in natural language processing from Cambridge. And for several years, I also worked as a researcher in SwiftKey. And SwiftKey was one of the first companies to develop predictive keyboards. So when you're typing on your phone and it predicts what the next word is going to be or what a correction is going to be for a typo, then these models are all also using language models internally. AI has, of course, become very widely used in the past couple of years in many different application areas. And it also has a lot of potential in the area of sustainability. So this ranges from applications that directly help improve the environment and the climate, things like tracking icebergs or predicting climate disasters or mapping deforestation. But AI can also be very useful in a more specific kind of company applications. So how can we help enterprise become more sustainable, and through applications like providing coherent ESG reporting or mapping supply chains or tracking regulatory changes in real time as they happen. So these are all kind of applications where AI can be very useful for sustainability. You're all probably very familiar with ChatGPT already. It has found its uses in so many people's computers that probably most of you have tried it already. And ChatGPT is only one of such models. There are many other similar models out there. There are other competitor companies that have developed similar systems. All of them are designed to behave as AI assistants. So they are designed to be interacted with in natural language. You can talk to them as if they were a human assistant. You can ask them questions. You can give them instructions. And internally, all of these models are based on language models, which is a type of machine learning model. And to clarify the terminology a little bit, when we talk about AI, then artificial intelligence actually includes any kind of techniques that enable computers to mimic human behavior in some way. But this can also include very simple approaches. So if we have something like 5 lines of programming code and an if-else statement that does something useful, then technically that's also an AI. So not all AI is like very sophisticated. Now, a subsection of AI is machine learning. And these are AI techniques that use statistical methods for learning and improving with experience. So these are more intricate algorithms that are able to learn how to solve a task based on some examples. We don't have to manually program the solution for them. Then a type of machine learning techniques is deep learning, and these are specific kinds of algorithms using multi-layer neural networks, and usually trained with vast amounts of data. So the algorithms are loosely inspired by the neurons in our brains, and deep learning has become probably the most widely popular machine learning technique in the past couple of years, because it has proven itself as a very useful and very capable machine learning algorithm. And even a smaller section of that, a type of deep learning, is large language models. And these are deep learning models that have been trained to predict and generate text specifically. And these are the AI assistants like ChatGPT that many people are using these days. So how do these large language models actually work? Internally, they predict the next word in the sequence based on all the previous words. And that's actually all they do. They predict one word at a time, and they just do it again and again and again. So if we have something like the student opened as the input, then the language model is designed to predict the next word in this sequence, which might be there. This word then becomes part of the original sequence, and now we ask the language model to predict the next word after that, which might be books after that, and started reading. So in that sense, a language model is like a train that's laying the track in front of itself while riding on it. So every word that it predicts, it makes that prediction, but then that becomes part of the evidence that it's making predictions based on. Now, internally, in order to predict the next word in the sequence, the models actually calculate the probability of every possible word being the next word. So, for example, if we have a sentence like "the students opened there," and we want to predict the next word, if our vocabulary size is 50,000, then we have to predict 50,000 different probabilities, one for each word, indicating what is the probability of that word being the next word in the sequence. So in this case, our most probable word is going to be books with the probability of 0.34. Maybe the next one is laptops, then backpacks, and it just goes down the list. And then words like fish and running are going to get very, very small probabilities because they don't really fit the context of that sentence at all. Now, in order to predict those probabilities, language models do a lot of mathematical calculations, and the language models themselves are essentially very large mathematical functions with adjustable parameters. So I wrote out like a small example of a mathematical function, and these are the kinds of calculations that happen inside language models in real life as well. Each of the decimal numbers here is a parameter that the models can adjust, and I've fit 10 different parameters into this slide, and we have to do 10 different mathematical operations with it in order to get an answer. But actual language models in practice are much bigger. So GPT-4 has about 1.76 trillion parameters. Claude Opus has 2 trillion parameters. And I'm sure companies are working on even bigger models at the moment as well. So you can imagine how long this mathematical calculation needs to be in order to fit 2 trillion parameters into it. And this is what the language models need to calculate in order to calculate the next probability, the probabilities of the next words in the sequence. Now we discussed that the language models are mathematical functions, but we are working with words. So we need a way to kind of transition between these two words, because we can't really do mathematical operations on words. We actually use special methods to map each word into numbers, more specifically a sequence of numbers. So for example, here I have 3 words: books, newspapers, cars, and we have mapped them to the corresponding sequences of numbers. This works in a particular way that each position in the sequence of numbers represents a particular property as well. So for example, the second position in the sequence might represent that this object is made of paper. So we have high values for books and newspapers, low value for cars. The fifth position might indicate that this object transports people. And now we have a high value for cars, low value for books and newspapers. And this method allows us to map words into numbers, but also in a way that words that have a similar meaning have a similar sequence of numbers as well. So the mathematical calculations can recognize these properties and use them in their in making the predictions. And now we have all the components we need. So this is essentially all that's happening inside the language model. We start with words, like the students opened there. We map these input words to sequences of numbers. These go as input to the language model, which is a large mathematical function. It performs a lot of calculations, millions or trillions of calculations on these numbers. And as the output, we get another sequence of numbers, and we then map that to an actual word, and this is the next word in the sequence. And then we do this process again and again in order to generate a whole text. During the training process, these models are trained to predict the next word in the sequence based on large amounts of examples that we show them. And the training process adjusts the parameters in such a way that the model would make better predictions about the existing text. And we have special algorithms for updating the model parameters in the best ways. And this training process, essentially what it does is it compresses huge amounts of information into these model parameters. So for example, one well-known model that's also open source is Llama 3. And this model was trained on 75 terabytes of text from the internet. It took 2 weeks on 24,000 GPUs to train it. So this is a huge amount of computational resources just because of how many graphics processing units there are. And the result was a 150 gigabyte file that contains 70 billion parameters. So we go from 75 terabytes to 150 gigabytes. This is the compression process. While the model is being trained, it actually picks up a lot of important world knowledge or factual knowledge as well. So even though we're training it to predict the next word in the sequence, it's learning to do perhaps things that we wouldn't expect it to do, or knowledge that it just needs to pick up in order to solve the next word prediction task. So for example, in this sentence here, I went for a walk in the park and stopped to eat a ham and cheese blank. In order to predict the word sandwich into that slot, the model needs to know that sandwich is something you can eat. It needs to know that it makes sense to eat a sandwich in the park. And it needs to know that a ham and cheese sandwich is a sensible combination to have. Similarly, if we have a sentence like Imperial College is a public research university in London. So in order to predict London correctly there, the model just needs to know this fact. It can't really logically deduce it somehow. It needs to have seen it somewhere and remembered it. So this is how the models, even though all they're doing is predicting the next word in the sequence, in order to do that task, they actually learn a lot of information about how the world works, what are the facts, even things like years and dates and names. So they try to remember all of this information. And the final step, in order to make these models into useful assistants, there's usually a special training process that goes through. Because if we just have a normal language model that's able to predict the next word in the sequence, if we ask it a question like, what is the capital of France? Then it might think that we are generating a list of questions. Like maybe it has seen lists of quizzes online and will try to generate something similar. So it might reply, what is the largest city in France? What is the population of France? Which is not really what we want. So there's usually a special instruction tuning process where the models are taught to answer questions or instructions in a helpful way. So in this case, if the question is, what is the capital of France? Then it will actually reply that the capital of France is Paris. And this is how the models work. Hopefully that gave a bit of useful insight into their internals. And now to just briefly discuss 4 different application areas, which I think are really good for these models. So they're not perfect for every application, but these 4, I think they are very well suited. So one application is question answering. So this is especially if we have large textual resource which contains the necessary answers, and we don't really want to read through it all manually and search ourselves. Instead, we can have the language model read through it, find the relevant information, and then phrase it to us in a particular way. So, for example, this is the AI assistant that Esgrid has developed, and they have a system for filling out complex EU forms. And when a user has a question about a form, then they can ask the AI assistant clarifying questions, anything that comes to mind. And the AI assistant looks through a lot of resources about this form, various instructions, both from the EU and from Esgrid that they have collected, and then constructs an answer to give the necessary information in a nice short paragraph that's clear to the user. So this is an application that's really well suited for this kind of AI. Another application area is summarization and analysis. So this is a case where we have huge amounts of data and we want to get some insights into it. So this is a different application also in Esgrid, where companies have already filled out the forms. there's a lot of information in the database, but we don't want to comb through it manually to search for insights. We can instead ask the AI to read through it and give us the important information in a much more compact form. Another application for which these models are really useful is information extraction. So this is a case study from a project I'm doing with Imperial Business School. And the idea here is to automatically process hundreds of thousands of company reports, feed these into AI models, and then extract structured information about sustainability initiatives that these companies are taking. So for each company, we want to have a specific list of initiatives they have done. Then what is the sustainable development goal for each of these initiatives? What is the initiative type, and who is the stakeholder recipient? And doing this manually would take years or decades, whereas we can feed these into the AI model and it will be much quicker to analyze all these thousands of reports. And getting this information in the structured form allows us to do a lot of interesting analysis and predictions about where different sectors are moving. And finally, another useful application quite relevant to sustainability is compliance checking. So if we have a list of different regulations or requirements that we need to obey and monitor, and we want to be able to feed in a document and have it automatically checked whether it corresponds and follows all these regulations and requirements, then this is another application where AI can be really useful. Doing this manually would take a very long time, reading through all of them one by one and comparing them, versus AI can just take the document and compare it to each of the regulations and prepare a report or a decision. Does this follow a particular regulation or not? And we can feed in hundreds of documents and the AI can do them, analyze them automatically. That's it from me. In summary, language models are designed to predict the next word in the sequence. And that's pretty much all they're designed to do. They do this task so well that they can predict answers to questions and responses to requests. And language models aren't the silver bullet for every possible task, but when used for the right tasks, they can be very helpful. And they also have a lot of potential to help companies in sustainability. And yes, that's it. I'm happy to take questions. And then after my presentation, Rainer will discuss additional specific applications of AI related to sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you, Marek. Please, any questions? I actually have one, kind of a question / comment, and clearly not a new one, but sort of how would you comment on the sustainability of AI itself? You told us about all the terabytes and processing power needed, etc., etc. So is there also a way with the new models to be more energy efficient?
It's definitely tricky. These new models are very large and they require a lot of resources to train. The good positive side is that the culture with these models is that many of the models are released publicly. So, for example, the Llama 3 model I mentioned, Meta has done the training for this model, but they released it open source, which means other researchers, users, companies don't need to train this model again on their own. They can benefit from the training that has already been done, and it has been done once, so others can just use it. But it is a problem, as the models are so big, then even running them once they are trained can take a lot of energy and a lot of resources. I would say it's a sustainability weak point of these models at the moment, but the positive thing is that the required resources are going down very quickly. So people are developing new and new models that are much smaller than the older ones, or they are smaller and just as capable as the older models. And the hardware is catching up as well. So companies are developing new computation resources that require less power and less resources. So I think at the moment, these models are still taking a good chunk of energy and computation, but as the technology evolves over the next couple of years, this will become less and less of an issue.
Thank you. We actually have one comment here in the chat from Miriam as well. I think it's a perfect intro to Rainer's presentation. The question is, there are already many different AI tools on the market. Which one to choose for everyday work? Which of them helps with the recently mentioned compliance check?
That's a good question. So all of these different AI tools have different focuses and different strengths and weaknesses. So I would say it kind of depends on the user and the type of questions they are asking. And it might be a good idea to try a couple of different ones before making the decision. ChatGPT is kind of still the market leader, but other companies have caught up in particular application areas. So, for example, for coding, if you have to write code, then many people actually prefer Claude. So it kind of depends on your specific needs. So it's a good idea to try. In terms of compliance checking, to be honest, I'm not sure I would use the off-the-shelf solutions at all. I think this is more requires a bit more specialized solutions. So if you have a team of software engineers that can build a system around something like a large language model that does the compliance checking, then that would be better. But you can also try just giving the documents to ChatGPT, but you would have to test it yourself how well that works, to be honest.
Okay, thank you. And I'll pass over to...
There's another question.
One add on this compliance check, because the companies have to apply the local legislation, then AI manage also the different languages. Let's say that we insert in this bubble in Latvian, Lithuanian, and Estonian the local language. Can they kind of I don't know, translate it to English and then kind of get the answers from them?
Yes, so many of the big models are able to handle Estonian quite well, actually. So, for example, ChatGPT handles Estonian really nicely, and it can map. It can process. You can give it one document in Estonian, one document in English, and it would be fine. I'm not sure about all the models, so some of them might not support Estonian as well as others, but in general, the language barrier is becoming less and less. Estonian researchers are also doing a lot of work in order to get Estonian training data into these models. So they're publishing Estonian text corpora and making it available so that all the companies training language models would also include Estonian in them. Yeah, I think multilinguality is there already.
Okay, thank you. Now on to Rainer, and Rainer, if you can also comment on compliance checking from your perspective.
Yes, I will touch this tools selection, the compliance checking. I'll give a couple of tips on how to get what you actually want out of those tools as well, a little bit. So, and well, we can come back to the same questions if I didn't clarify them well enough and at the end of my presentation as well. 1 second, I'll set things up. Okay, yeah, looks like you can see.
Yes, all good.
All right, I'll get going. So, whilst Marek was talking about in general, like, well, first of all, a disclaimer, Marek talked about the differences of those terms and that what we're actually talking about is just large language models when we're referring to ChatGPT and those other tools. I will still kind of like misuse the term a little bit and just refer to all those tools as AI tools, just for the sake of simplicity. And yeah, my goal will be to just give you more practical tools of like what you yourself can do in your daily life. Like Marek mentioned that there are AI tools that can be built or systems that do these things automatically, but I'm taking it more kind of like more down to earth and just show you what you can do yourself in your daily life as well. Yeah, as well mentioned in the introduction, I'm responsible for the product at Esgrid. Previously worked in other tech companies, but started in sustainability also in April. And well, as Marek mentioned, we have 2 AI tools in Esgrid as well. One for data analysis and insights, and the second one for support and answering questions and giving kind of a context to ESG assessment questions. So we built those in-house. So we have a little bit of experience of how to build those tools ourselves as well and how to tune them, like Marek mentioned. And in general, like I'm a avid user of AI tools myself. I keep myself up to date with all the changes, new tools. I love trying them out as well. And well, in general, like in many different meetups and networking events, I do love talking about AI and use cases. So I'm always happy to hear what's more about what's possible, what works, what doesn't work, and so on. So that's why I'm happy to chat here as well and put all of this into the sustainability context. And why I think people should use AI tools more is, well, I mean, in most of the time, like media and everybody else talk about productivity and doing more with your time and being more efficient. That's all true as well, but why I like to use AI tools mostly is just it makes me a happier person. Why so? It's like there are many, well, like in our daily work, in our daily lives, there are many things that, well, like there are some things that we like doing, some things that we don't like doing. In my case, like writing, reading through documents, all kind of like text related things are, well, like I don't particularly enjoy that part. So whatever tools I can use to spend less time on writing, reviewing some documents, stuff like that, it just helps me focus my time more on the things and the like actions that I do like. So in turn, it makes me a happier person and a happier employee as well, actually. So I like to think about it actually from that angle. And yeah, so going on, what I'll be talking about is just, well, yeah, I have one slide about tools, a lot of different use cases and examples with example prompts as well, showing you how can you do. And later, I do want to leave some time for questions as well, or not even just questions, but I'm super happy to hear your own examples as well if you have experience already, what works and what doesn't work. We'll share the slides later on as well, and I added a link to the title of this slide as well that has, like, that's my favorite resource for all kinds of AI tools. So there are AI tools for video, for pictures, for like legal compliance, as mentioned. So there's one resource that keeps track of the best ones in each of the categories, so you can see more from there as well. But for, like, how to say, like, the most common ones are ChatGPT and Cloud. Like Marek said as well, between those two, I would say it's more of a matter of personal preference and what you need it for. And those two are the kind of like front runners of the industry as well. They keep coming up with those new models, and like they kind of like win each other step by step at all times. So at one point, one might be better a little bit, but then another one comes up that's again a little bit better, and so on. So they keep climbing and beating each other all the time. So it's not at any, like, and it can change in a matter of months all the time. But for most tasks, both of them actually work fine. I'm actually on a daily basis actually also using both. I do like Claude for writing and content related stuff. It just sounds more human-like and natural. That's my personal preference, but yeah. But ChatGPT has these like specialized GPTs. You can have a GPT for, like, that acts as a lawyer. That you can have one that acts as a copywriter, and so on, so on. So you can kind of like put them in a specific context, in specific mindset, and don't have to redo it with prompting every single time again, over and again. But going on, one of the use cases is just asking for guidance on processes. So if you have something coming up and you don't know how to even do it, let's say double materiality analysis is a good example for sustainability. You can start by giving context. You can, like, it's helpful if the GPT also knows about your role, what you're trying to achieve. You can give it tasks, like how to say, roles as well. Like, think like coach, think like sustainability consultant, or something like that. Then you give it the task or what you're trying to achieve, and you can just say, like, I don't know how to run this process. Give me step-by-step guidance on what should I do. And well, of course, it will spit out something, but then you can continue iterating, giving feedback of, like, maybe you meant it from a different angle, maybe you want more. You can ask questions. Should I do this? Should I do that? When should I do this or that? And so on, so on. So you can iterate, and, like, just walking through planning processes is one use case. Another use case that you can do yourself is strategies. Next step, in addition to processes, is just helping you plan like short-term goals, midterm goals, long-term goals, or strategy, like writing strategy documents. Let's say if you have a bullet point list of, like, key items that you want to achieve, you can easily have AI tools kind of like format it in a nice readable way for other like, let's say, internal users as well. And here I brought a couple of different examples as well. Sustainability strategy, how to create a strategy, how to engage employees, and so on, so on. Compliance was mentioned briefly previously as well. So like those general build tools, you can't do it in a way that it's not so advanced, like Marek described, that like you feed hundreds of documents and then it automatically maps them out according to the regulations. It's not so advanced. Like it has to be some special purpose-built tool for that, but one by one, you can still do it. I've done it myself as well. So you can upload, let's say, a new regulation or some legal document or something like that, and you can ask it still to summarize. You can go on, explain your company, what you do, your operations, and still ask, like, does it apply to us? And basically have it's not, and here it's important that it's not just like you ask one question and you immediately get a yes or no answer. It needs to be a discussion. So you give some more details. You might ask questions yourself as well that you have in mind. And the result of that discussion, you might come to the conclusion. So it's not so automated if you do it manually yourself, but it's possible on a one-by-one document basis. Crafting, again, with crafting documents, one thing is reports. Sustainability reports, parts of it, creating summaries, writing intros. And there, again, it's important that you also give, it works best if you also give background and context to it as well. If the AI tool doesn't know anything about your company, what your goals are, even what about your industry, then of course the reports or inputs that it gives you is not useful. But the more you give about yourself as well and your company, and I don't know, maybe you already have a draft of different things, then you can. It's way easier to and with a better quality to have it propose different reports and write things for you. Now going more into more creative stuff, not just document writing, but just ideation. So if you want to achieve something, drive some initiatives, improve something, then ask for ideas. And again, of course, you can give constraints about it should be as cheap as possible, or you don't have a budget for this, or I don't know, you need to be able to manage it by yourself, or whatever constraints and needs you have. But just having kind of like treating it as a team member with whom you can share ideas, get feedback, ask it to critique your ideas, or just even improve upon it, or just randomly ideate, give me some ideas. Up next, no, this is the most classic use case of just helping you write your emails, internal messages, documents, and stuff like that. But and with AI, many have this saying that it sounds too artificial and sounds too fake. But I've in my own experience, I think you can overcome that quite easily just by telling it be natural, make it more natural. And you can do it like several times as well. You review the text, it still feels like it's too official. You give it feedback that, hey, it's still too official, make it more human sounding, make it more natural. And if you do it like a couple of times, then it actually, at least in my opinion, gets pretty good at it as well. Or you can just in many cases, you can adjust your tone of voice as well. So maybe you write some document, but if you want you write some message to your employees asking them to change their behavior, do something differently that they're doing today. You can write it as how to say, very neutral and fact-based in your head, and then just ask GPT to adjust the tone so that it's more friendly and inviting and kind of making sure to engage the employees and so on. So it can give you, like, it can help you rewrite your messages quite well as well. Policies, all kinds of policies. I've heard many good examples about like security policies, privacy policies, resource use, circular economy, many, like anything really. It's of course, like, the policy won't be like out of the box. It won't be like super tailored to your company immediately, but then you have, like, you can at least get a generic template out of it, and then just, well, copy paste it to somewhere else and start working on it and adjusting it to your own needs. Or you can work directly with the AI tool as well, like just talking to it, like, okay, like, first do a draft, but then start adjusting it, give it feedback. I want it to be more like this, more like that. We don't have this process, but we have that process. So you can just iterate and tailor it on the go as well. Training content, as mentioned in the survey and challenges as well. One of the things that sustainability people do as well is, well, training other people's, increasing awareness and knowledge about topics. And whether you need to run a workshop or a session or training, you can ask for help how to run it, that, well, in an engaging way, or so to make sure that, like, the participants of the workshop or a meeting or something like that are actually getting out of it what you want to get out of it. Used it for myself for different workshop purposes myself as well. Just ask, like, ideas on how to run some sessions. Creating tests, quizzes, anything interactive, anything that you can come up, again, just help like, get it to your this 30 work, and just adapt it to your own needs. And last piece is more on the personal and professional development side, which applies to actually every role. Used it myself as well for different purposes. Is well, reviews of CV, adjusting it, getting feedback, preparing for interviews if you are applying to somewhere, asking for interview questions, or even you can even go further, not just ask interview questions, but do, like, how do you say, like a test interview or a mock interview, like tell the AI that you are my interviewer, I am the interviewee, let's practice an interview, and it should give you questions one by one. You will have to answer it. It will, like, run it like an actual conversation. And with the voice capabilities, I think you can do it just over voice now as well. I haven't tried this part, but I'm pretty sure you can. Or something that I've also used personally is just creating getting help to create your own, like, learning plans or skill improvement plans or something like that. So you don't need your manager necessarily, or somebody else to do it for you or need the help, but you can just do it for yourself as well using AI. So to summarize everything that I said, always give context and background about your role, the company that you're in, and with let's say ChatGPT, and I think Cloud now has it well. It's like you can save this context in the settings so that any GPT, like, chat window that you open up already knows this context. So you don't have to type it every single time once again, like, I am this role and I want to do this. Like, you can save this background to memories, and it has it always there. So give it context: who you are, what you want to do, how do you want to do it. Be very, very clear and specific. This is what we see with our own, like, Esgrid AI tools actually as well, is in most cases when the answer is not quite what you expect with the prompt or the question. It's because the question can be like understood in many different ways. It's quite often that use case actually. So be clear and specific with what you want. Always iterate. It's not just one question, one answer, but give it feedback and iterate and tweak it on the go. Always double check the answers and sense check them. Like Marek said as well, it's by design trained to predict. So by design, there is a margin of error there as well. Always will be. Just depending on the context and the industry and the use case, it's sometimes better, sometimes worse. Don't give out your confidential data to AI tools for training. And just to summarize, I don't know from whom this quote is, but I do remember it. Like AI tools are like a stadium full of students. They're very, very happy to help. They want to do everything that you give them and tell them to, but they need guidance, they need help, they need surveillance. So just treat them like your own partner or like a coworker or teammate that can help you do things, but it doesn't do anything for you, like on behalf of you. So it just use it as an input to help yourself. So, questions, examples. Yes, Marika.
So basically, reflect if I understood correctly. Let's say that we have this, I don't know, UN or OECD, some 80-page guidance again.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in a way that I can feed in and say that, give me the summary or give me the kind of the key points or something like that. Mm-hmm. I guess my worry is there is like, if it gives me a summary, I don't really learn what's in this 80. I hate to read those 80 pages documents, but then sometimes those texts, like you get the understanding, but then you still don't know how to proceed. So basically, I could also tell me that, okay, you gave me the summary, but give me also the steps, what to do, like in practical terms. Like, but does it really have the knowledge to tell me that okay, now open this channel, do this? And maybe the second one, when I'm thinking double materiality assessment, like if, like say I have this sustainability matter and I'm really struggling with the scope, like putting the number on the scale or scope, let's say, if I describe that, I have this subsidiary, I have that supplier there might be this issue. Can the AI help me also establishing basically like whether I put like for the scale 2 or 3 or 5 or if I kind of describe the situation?
Let's take it one by one. So the first question that you mentioned about okay, you get the summary and then you don't know what to do. That's exactly what you can tell AI as well. It gives you the summary and you respond, I don't know what to do with it. Give me actions. so
does
you
it
can have this conversation.
Background? Like, where does it get it?
Yeah, so so one thing is that the AIs are trained with historic data. So like the cutoff date of like, I don't know, I think ChatGPT knows up to autumn 2023 or something like that. So it doesn't know the latest information, but it does, like, you can assume that let's say public sustainability reports that were publicly available in the internet that were before that cutoff time, like GPT knows about them and was trained upon them. It's it's a different question about how well it can recall that, since it will, like, again, it's trained on the whole internet. It has some good like action items and suggestions, but it's also probably trained on some bad ones as well. So you still need to be have that filter. But you can try. So give this feedback that if you want more actions and more actionable feedback, just tell it that go more actionable, and you can do it over and over and like multiple times as well, just to repeat the same thing over and see where it gets you. You can also set like limits or constraints and asking like when you're answering and giving these best practices, let's say, or action items, think about the companies only in my industry. Think about only the front runners of sustainability in that industry, and only take the best practices or something like that. I haven't tried this specifically, but I would assume that this might help improve the quality a little bit as well. So you narrow it down and tell it what to focus on or where to take that information. And what was the second question? I forgot about
the risk assessment, like, can they help me to kind of establish in my scale, like, where is my situation really? Like, that I have to kind of go like how, like the scale, the scope, if this situation is irreversible, I cannot say the word pöördumatu.
Irreversible. Yeah. This one is a little bit trickier. I don't know, actually. I haven't tried, or I can't bring a parallel example either. I guess it all depends on out of the box, definitely not. But if you give it more context and have you need to, let's say if you're trying a scale and trying to get some evaluation on a scale, then it needs context about what is 1, what is 10, and everything in between. And if you go through this exercise of defining everything together with them, then they should be able to help you. So if they know the framework that you're using or your mental model, or if it's an actual framework, or if it's something that you design yourself, if you give it to them and give those requirements and then start giving practices or information about your company. So we did this, and then tell me how does it scale, should work. But it might need a lot of trying and teaching.
Thank you.
We are running out of time as well. So if somebody else has questions about this use case, how, what, why, feel free to just reach out to me directly as well in LinkedIn, let's say. I'm happy to have these conversations outside of this webinar as well. And as mentioned, slides will be shared. So if you want to look back and get these resources, examples, you will get those as well.
Yeah, I can only add on. Thank you, Rainer. We are indeed running out of our time. So thank you once again, everybody who joined today. We will have recording available for the ones who couldn't join or could just join partly. And as Rainer said, we will be sharing slides, and happy to answer. If you have any questions, feel free to contact any of us. So, and we'll certainly run webinars in future as well. So we'll keep you posted. Thank you again for your time.